Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Trekle Trunk,
Indeed.
where we will be reviewing IDW's Star Trek Countdown to the Day of Blood, Part 2. I mean, it's only Part 2 because this is the second podcast we've done about it, but it's in many, many parts, but we'll make it part 1.
Last
So
time
this is
on
the...
Day of Blood Countdown.
Yeah, let's give it the rundown. No, go back and just watch that last video. Go watch Part 1, and then meet us here. And yes, this is the end of the countdown to the Day of Blood that we're going to do tonight. And then we'll be back for the day itself in due time.
Carpe
we are
diem,
your...
we say in Klingon.
Yep, they say that all the time.
Yep.
We are your hosts, Davan and Dave.
Indeed. Plain simple Tailors, Locutors of Trek. Nice to
handsome gentlemen, you might even say.
Yeah, even sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
We say it to each other. Tonight we will be talking about Star Trek Defiant number 4.
Oh yeah.
And number 5.
Great cover. I love that cover.
Retailer Incentive. Yep.
Yep.
There's a Sela there, someone we haven't seen in a while. Written by Christopher Cantwell with art by Angel Unzueta. And we will also be talking about Star Trek number 9. Another great cover. And Star Trek, they're all good covers. Star Trek 10.
Another
Shack's
great
there.
cover.
Look at that. Quark, Cisco, and Data.
Those
like
bylines.
One of my favorite characters there. Like, God,
yeah.
This is good stuff. By Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, with pencils by Mike Feehan and inks by Manuel Bracchi. Bracchi. I hope I'm saying that right, Manuel. All right. So, any opening thoughts before we get into this review?
The further we get into these sort of interweaving storylines, the more I am enjoying them. We were talking about this a little bit the other day. And I mentioned this before, so it's no secret. I had some qualms about what seemed like the sort of liberal festooning of both of these ships with sort of fan favorite characters. And there's just a little too much meet cute that can be sort of dangerous in these things. But as it turns out, they've given a lot of characters pretty reasonable reasons for being there. And if not, they've got a good command reason for them to be there at any rate, which I suppose is a good reason, but whatever. And they're all starting to really show why they're in the story at this point, and I love how the Defiant is becoming a kind of mirror image of Cisco's ship. It's like a little a lovely A and B plot kind of thing, but they're each their own A plot,
Yeah, it feels like they each their own A plot. Because I had that same feeling while reading these, and like, because you have to read them. We read them Defiant 4, then Star Trek 9, then Defiant 5, and then Star Trek 10.
And I mean, Defiant's clearly of the two. Defiant's clearly the actual B plot chronologically, because it broke off and became its own series over the course of Star Trek issues 1 to 5, right? Or 6 or whatever.
But kind of is the A plot.
Interestingly enough, right? I love
it's the most into itself. Kind of, at least from what we've read so far, it's kind of the most like engaged in like the main villain and the main struggle, I guess.
Yeah.
Because because Cisco gets kind of taken up, whisked away to Cardassia, sort of thing, which is almost like an interruption of the story. A lovely one, but and it's not entirely. It's all connected, but it kind of seems like one. So why don't we break into Defiant number 4 here?
All right. And as we said, we'll walk back and forth between these two series to weave the narrative together.
Oh, lovely. I have a toddler who can climb out of her crib now, and it's hard to put her to sleep these days. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So,
So many motor
Get a
skills,
visitor down
so
here.
little impulse control.
Yeah.
It's an exciting
Okay.
age, I'm sure.
Yes, indeed. So, Defiant 4,
Defiant.
we pick up with, Roe and, where Defiant left off was Worf came to the bridge and found that Spock had given Lore his body back, and Lore was sitting in the captain's chair, and then Worf passes out from
Yes.
because he got shot. He gets shot real bad, and he's still holding on.
Yes, he did. Yeah. He's currently being he's being sort of kept conscious and functional by what's it's called?
The adrenaline.
Oh, the Sacrament of Kalis. That's right. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
which we'll get a new name here shortly.
Yeah.
I love how they draw Lore, because he's just look at his face.
He's so creepy.
Such a disingenuous
So creepy.
bastard.
Yeah. But they really, I really love the art in this. They capture the faces that we've come to know so well, really beautifully.
Yeah, I mean that's Rowan and B'Elanna. You can't
Absolutely.
gorgeous. But so kind of Lore's like, it kind of seems like I'm the hero of the mission here. But we ain't seen nothing yet, he says. So B'Elanna and Ro and Lore. Lore has a great line there, though. Hey, my last drinking buddies were Borg.
We all know how that went. Yeah.
So they're talking about the Doomsday weapon of the Kuvo Kalis, which is Kalis' ship.
This crazy ship he's got.
It is indeed. The single most lethal thing in the galaxy right now by several orders of magnitude, Lore reckons, by everything he's been told about it. And he's not down with that. Like, if anyone's going to rule the galaxy, it has to be him. So that's sort of the thing that's
interesting.
bringing him along as an ally. And they even mention that to him. Like, oh my God, when him and Spock here are going to go on an away mission together, and it's the most glorious, like, buddy comedy thing ever. But we'll get to that.
And what might be called a flamingo up from start to finish.
Yeah.
It's bigger than what the English would call a cock up.
Yeah. So Lore and B'Elanna are like helping each other out with like good ideas, engineering ideas, and stuff like that. So then they find these other ships. There's this other ship, the one that Sayla's been mentioning in her correspondences. That ones that she wants, because they have these cleave ships. So Lore finds out that it's Romulan and not Klingon, even though it sort of looks Klingon. It sort of looks like a bird of prey.
It's got a real Burrell head area to it, or bridge.
Yeah. Area. Yeah, it's almost like a Burrell mixed with a Romulan Valdor.
Yeah, because those wings are very Valdor for sure.
Yeah. So then we go back to, but so they're running the bridge right now. Ro, of course, arguing with B'Elanna. They just do not get along. It's hilarious. And Lore, what a threesome to run the Defiant bridge. So then we get back to sick bay and our Orion, who we only know as X right now. She won't tell anyone.
A farmer, as they call them.
A farmer, PH farmer.
PH farmer, yeah.
She invents drugs and sells them.
Charming character.
Yeah. Orions. We learned more about Orion stuff here in the next issue.
Some of them haven't been pirates for 5 whole years.
Oh yeah, so she's doing exactly for 5 years. She's not one of them. She's been a pirate within 5 years.
She's been a pirate the entire time. Actually, I think even the pirates aren't huge fans of her. Which I think
it seems like it. She's an interesting character because she's being very mysterious on purpose, but she doesn't seem to fit as an Orion very well. Like, she's this doctor.
No, but in that sense,
but like she invents drugs. Yeah, it's very well defined. It's a misfit crew. So Worf's getting surgery, but she's like, I can't risk putting you under, so this should be fun, she says to him. He's like, fun? She's like, yeah, you Klingons get off on extreme pain, right? So, his heart valves are collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
And she comes to realize that she has to give him like the adrenaline, the Klingon adrenaline, to keep his heart going, which is the sacrament of Kalis. Oh god, this is funny. So Spock comes in. Yeah, go ahead.
No, and you know, there's a struggle in this, I think, for Worf, even though he doesn't. I'm not sure he says a whole lot about it yet, but I think he is worried about what is going to happen while he's under the effects of this stuff, because he's clearly that great panel we get at the end of one of the other issues, maybe 3, where he's just like, you know, sort of raging out on this stuff. I mean, he knows he's not going to be under full good control if he's got this stuff in him, which I think is an interesting twist.
Yeah, it's extra angry Worf. So like, let's make Worf angrier.
Because like he's normally angry but super controlled. You know,
super, especially for.
Well, I mean, except for season 1 of TNG. You know, there's that.
Yeah. Firing phasers,
runs and everything.
So Spock comes in. He's like, perhaps it would be wise not to infuriate him while he is also in tremendous agony. She's just like, no, I'm just respecting his cultural heritage, which has recently devolved into a bunch of adrenaline junkie murderers and their crazy clone emperor.
That's. I mean,
that's got where we're at. That's where we're at in this story. But it's not just Klingons. The Red Path has spread. They've come to realize that it has at least has Romulans and Orions, but the other crew has found that there are also Red Path Cardassians as well.
These are groups that would not traditionally work together or play together on purpose.
So Worf's super mad because Spock let Lore sit in the captain's chair, and you know, even using Lore, that giving him that sort of mobility and control of, you know, himself and situations, you know. So he's like, look, I had to. The Defiant was going to be destroyed. I needed help, and he needed hands for him to help me. So that's what we did. And Worf's just like, ludicrous. He's like so angry. It's hilarious. Spock's just like, I do usually appreciate a devil's advocate argument, but because he did that all the time in TOS, he was always playing devil's advocate.
Oh yeah.
X is so funny. She's like, listen, well, I hate to interrupt the fire and ice pissing contest. He's just like, you've done enough, Butcher. God, they write them so well. Like, you can hear Worf's voice and Spock's voice, and like even Laura's voice. Yeah,
they get really the pattern of their dialogue really well.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, there they are. You know.
Yeah, again, great faces.
Trying to explain himself. Spock as Worf's first officer is just very interesting. Effective too, in a way. He does rely on Spock, and you know, does ask him for counsel every now and then because he respects him.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is where she tells him that she needs to hit him again with the Red Path Sacrament, and he's just like, "No, I refuse." She's just like, "Okay, but if your pressure drops low enough, those 2 collapsing chambers could take down the other 6 because they have 8 chambers in their heart, the Klingons." So she's like, and then you're not angry anymore. You're just dead. She's so funny.
That's
then
not like, a good death either.
But then Worf shows some doubt. He's just kind of like mutters under his breath. He's like, I knew I was not up to this task. And he keeps questioning himself as captain. And so here he tries to get Spock to take command. And Spock simply just says, no.
Yeah.
And then he's dragging him away, and he's just like, because that was as lucid a suggestion you could have made as captain, you were still qualified to be captain. Good point.
Good old Vulcan logic.
And then we have another sidebar, another correspondence, Sayla to the Tal Shiar regional prefect Aerith. And that's she's just saying, like, look, I know you all hate me because every time I try to take over Vulcan or try to murder Spock or do anything, I fail. So she keeps getting demoted because she does keep failing.
Yeah.
And she understands that. She's not even bitter about that. She's like, yeah, okay, fine. I didn't succeed, so whatever. But I need you to listen to what I'm saying in this case because
Yes.
it's bad. He's like, it's bad. The Red Path have, infected Romulus as well, and this weapon is insane. So it's not just that Kahless has this crazy weapon that he got from that race of builders, but every time they kill these godlike creatures, like the crystalline entities or whatever, they also gain those abilities. So,
so this is something that's evolving or developing or whatever it's doing. Yeah.
Oh, it's so interesting where they go with this. So then she pokes Worf with the adrenaline. He just stands up. Attention! I apologize for any lack of control I may demonstrate. The triage methods being used to keep me alive may result in some side effects.
Oh man.
Okay.
Promptly begins chewing on the arm of his chair,
Yeah, and then Ro, this is where we learn the farmer term, and Ro calls X a low-life farmer. And they're all like, what's a farmer? and then Laura's just like, an illegal pharmacologist, drug dealer, hyposlinger, subspace juice jockey.
Gets a good Data moment in there. It's nice.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I don't know if Data would use the term subspace juice jockey.
No. That's definitely in Laura's style.
Yeah. So, yeah. This is where they split up, I believe. Oh, yes. So, right. This is where they find out that, it was obviously a genius that created this thing. And this is Laura's like, and that genius is almost certainly Klingon. So, they're going to, Laura and Spock are going to try to retrieve this Klingon scientist. Because they argue about it a bit.
Goes off after the coup Vocales, right? If I'm not mistaken. It's been a few weeks since I read that issue.
Yeah, I guess it did. No. Does it? Anyway, we'll forget there. They're going somewhere.
Oh, yeah, we'll get there.
So then they call up their... they have that kind of a... If you can see her there. They do have an informant on Konos. So, yeah, this is where they find out. They're like, the Klingons will invent time travel. Fascinating, Spock says. Oh, yeah. Where did we get to the time travel? I feel like I skipped over something.
I'm not sure how we got there.
Oh, my. Try not to read this whole thing as we go through it. In forgiving a small, quiet... Oh, right. Oh, what's this now? Starfleet Archive. It's another sidebar here. B'Elanna Torres acting. Oh, this is great. This is so when Voyager gets back, they all get debriefed, obviously, by admirals at Starfleet. And Jellicoe is the one who debriefs B'Elanna. And she's just not playing his game. Because he's trying to... This is where they get to the Klingon scientists in the time travel. Because Jellicoe's asking her about future Janeway, in Endgame, comes back in time. And they're like, well, how did she do that? And Torres just like, I'm not telling you. He's like, what? Of course you're telling me. She's like, no, because I don't want even... She does not very trusting of Starfleet. She was Maquis.
No.
She's like, I don't trust you guys with time travel either. So, no. So, yes, it's that scientist.
It's that guy.
That's the guy who invents time travel.
Yeah.
Korath,
the Klingon scientist from an alternate 2404.
Yeah. But,
It's the
alternate or not, he's in this one too. And, and he played by Vaughn Armstrong in the Voyager episode.
Oh, yeah.
So, so they call Danok, their liaison on Konos, and she says From what they've gathered here, Korath keeps a private laboratory on Maranga 4, and that's where Spock and Lore take off in the Chaffee shuttle. The Chaffee there. Yeah. And it's a great buddy. So Spock doesn't at all hide what he thinks of Lore, and in fact, he's almost antagonizing him with what he thinks of Lore. He's just like, well, I don't think you're very trustworthy, and I think you're likely gonna do something violent and betray us. And he's just like, because that's what you do. And he's just like, oh no. He says giving him his body back was regrettable and a potential liability.
Yes.
He says that to Lore. So that's pretty funny. And now we're back on the bridge of the Defiant. And where are they going? They're looking for the transponder code coordinates. That's what they're after.
Oh, right.
Yes, and that's where Sayla comes into play here. Because she also has some transponder code coordinates. And it's one of these things where they need to put their transponder code coordinates together to solve the problem.
Indeed.
So,
so we're gonna
and then Bird of Prey decloaks. Ready all weapons, Crazy Worf says.
Prepare to shoot everything.
Yep. And then they get a hail from the Bird of Prey. And in fact,
it's Sayla.
It is Sayla.
What a great picture of her. I think that was
Rose,
taken right out of
really
whatever season that was. Season 4, episode
very good.
25.
The art is phenomenal.
Yeah.
She's like, that's her, Tasha Yar's daughter. And Worf's just like, a version of Tasha Yar. Not his Tasha Yar.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh,
his Tasha she tells him, we need to work together. And he's just like, that sucks. Fine. Like, come over here. Kind of
yes.
Beam aboard. Why don't you? So then, this part's crazy. So then, Lore and Spock beam into what's supposed to be Korath's lab.
Mm-hmm.
And they're looking around. They see some gawk. And, Spock's just like, alas, does not keep well unless refrigerated or devoured when the serpent worms are still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then Lore finds a gun.
Oh, yeah.
And he immediately, of course, points it at Spock, because of course he does. Even if he's not going to use it, he still wants to make that point. Like, I could have killed you.
Yep. I'm thinking about it.
And then Spock's like, perhaps we should leave Korath's effects undisturbed. It's just like, perhaps, or perhaps not.
I mean, it's absolutely Lore's sense of humor as well.
Oh, yeah. Like, look at this shot.
Ooh.
He's just such a turd. Oh, yeah. He asked what he is on this mission back in when they were on the shuttle. He's like, I'm not a captain. I'm not an officer. What am I? And Spock's just like, science.
Science.
You are science. Not a science officer. You are science.
You are science. Come, Lore. Science me. He's
like, hey, even a science officer needs to watch his back, right? Sorry, my mistake. Just science. He's like, what did you call me earlier? A liability? Well, he's still holding his gun. Spock's just like, yes. And I said your reactivation was potentially regrettable.
Don't forget that part.
That's what Lore says. He's like, see, I don't remember the potentially part. They're such a good team. Spock's just like fascinating. So then an alarm comes up, which is surprising to them because they had already scanned the room and there were no power sources. Mm-hmm. So this, basically bomb activates and boom. To be continued.
Dun, dun,
But this is an interesting thing Spock says here. He's like, where was it? For if my logic is to indeed remain sound in this current situation, it must seem by more typical standards totally irrational, and so far it does. For example, the logic behind reactivating lore was quite simply and yet profoundly insane. But like Spock's embracing this situation that it's so insane. He's like, maybe like the best logic here is almost insanity. Is kind of where Spock is getting to him.
Yeah, because I mean everything is just spiraling so hard out of control, you know?
And everything's so ridiculously like insurmountable. Like the weapon Kahless has, there should be no way they can defeat him, really, unless he's an idiot, which he kind of is, because this isn't Kahless. This is Kahless the Second. Kahless the Second is not Kahless.
This is a guy who knows he's not Kahless, right? This is his problem. It's always been his problem.
Yes, like what that would do to somebody with like the makeup
with
of
Kahless's mind and memories, right? Like, oh my gosh,
it must be torturous to him. Like,
yeah, can you imagine? So he goes on this grand thing, but you're right. Like, there's no way they could beat his weapon. They've got to do something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, and they do develop a plan. I mean, well, a little bit of a spoiler. Like, they can't go after the weapon. It's like we somehow have to turn his followers against him. Like, because he still needs followers, and he would want them anyway. He's just that kind of guy. He's Kahless the Second.
Yeah. Big ships don't run themselves, though.
No. So then we go back to Star Trek number 9 now.
Mm-hmm.
I love that like Cardassian is spray painting slurs on this Cisco screen. Because Cisco is a slur on Cardassia now amongst the youth, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And Cisco's just sitting in his cell waiting for the verdict because they already did their court scene.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where something you had mentioned to me, and I was like, what are you talking about? Ducat shows up in such kind of red phantom form kind of thing.
It's raciness.
And that is Cisco's like, Ducat, I can't believe the prophets would send you of all people. He's like, neither could I. Perhaps this is a pa race granting me a boon from the afterlife to watch your righteous, oh so justified death. He's like, or maybe I'm just going mad. And that's what Cisco says. And then Ducat's just like, oh, I think we both know you crossed that line some time ago. Luckily, you're in excellent company.
I mean, it's not impossible to say that. It's not impossible to say that he crossed that line in the same cave that Ducat did. You know,
they kind of broke each other in a way.
That episode Ducat worse how the series ends. Yeah,
but
they like really get
where Cisco almost sort of abandons his morality at least in relation to Ducat, because he's just like, next time I see him, I'm just gonna kill him. And that's not really the way Starfleet officers are supposed to do things. But I don't think anyone would argue with it either back at Starfleet Command. He'd be like, oh, I killed Ducat. They're just going to be like, okay.
And the medal ceremony will be at 3.
Yeah. You'll get your medal. So then, they argue a bit, Ducat and whatever Ducat is, and Cisco. But the difference he says to here, because Ducat's trying to say that they're both the same, like they were both touched by the divine, and that's what makes them have so much in common. And Cisco's just like, no, you cast your lot with a pack of devils. He's like, I was, and Ducat's like, chosen Benjamin. What hubris! He's just. And then he goes on why he thinks he's right, and Cisco's just like, no, every hellish choice you made was yours, Ducat. And that is true. Like he's like sought out the Pa race.
Absolutely. He went down, he
created
took himself
a cult
down that road once he could no longer destroy Bajor at his own leisure with his own hand.
Yep. Because he had no power within the Cardassian military anymore. So he's like, cult, that'll work.
Yeah. Gotta love a good cult. Yeah. You're right. It's not
So-
something that hasn't been tried before.
So then, all of a sudden, at the door, Garrick's there, and he hears Cisco say Ducat, and he's like, Ducat? I spent a while fantasizing about him as well. How it might feel to slide a knife into his ribs, to see the life fade from his eyes. Sadly, Captain Cisco, both of our fantasies are over. Now only reality awaits, and they head back to the court scene. But before we see that, we are in the corridors, where the Red Path guys are running down the corridor, trying to get to the rest of the away team.
Yeah.
But Shax is there. Shax is waiting for these cardies.
Shax is so looking forward to this.
They're just like, our path is paved with glorious dead. The world is hidden. Our path is red. Oh, see, this is actually great. So, what this is a song that we've sung many times before, you and I did.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the Warriors Anthem rewritten by Kalis II, or whoever he got hired to do it. And it's now called Faith of the Blood Guide.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still through the same beat. And yeah. No, not that one. Not that
one. No, I'm thinking of the wrong one.
You're but the way the normal things are, it's like the blood of battle washes clean the warrior brave and true. We fight, we love, and then we kill. Our lives burn short and bright. Then we die with honor and join our fathers in the Fleet where we battle forever through the eternal fight. That's the normal Warriors Anthem. Very Klingon. But they sing it very differently now. Now they're like, a rotten heart pumps toxic blood. Fire makes it clean. With burning heart, a crucible by fire we are seen. Across the stars, his call is heard. Flame unquenchable. From faithless pits we rise for blood. Unforgettable. Ho! Hands will hold our weapons. Mouths will speak our lore. Eyes will see in darkness. Legs will charge to war. And it's like, our path is paved with glorious dead. The world is hidden. Our path is red. And Shax hears those last few lines, and he's just like, damn right it is.
It's a pretty metal song.
Red, all right. Yeah. But it's interesting that he went so far as to rewrite that anthem. Like, he's trying to remake all of Klingon society. I mean, galactic society, clearly, but like,
yeah, and it's interesting.
We have to see Martok. I hope we see
do
Martok in this series, because he's just doing this while Martok's there as Chancellor, and he's trying to do all of these things. Like, what is Martok doing? Martok must hate all this too.
The one thing we do know is that he has no forces from Martok, and he doesn't appear to have any ships from Martok either. He may have some ships that other people have brought to his cause, but he doesn't seem to have any like Klingon Defense Force squadrons.
No, his fleet so far looks like the Kuvo Kales, which is basically all you need. And
so it's an Orion ship, right?
The Kuvo Kales?
Isn't that a big Orion ship, or it was based on an Orion ship?
Oh, I thought it was more like a. Well, we'll see it.
It's a big red sun.
We'll take a look at it when it gets up. But Andy has 3 of those Romulan cleave ships, as Selah calls them, which she says are the craziest thing ever. They're better than warbirds. They were designed to fight the Dominion and the Borg at the same time. It's like their modulations, their like phaser modulation is so like exacting and so fast that it can disable any shields within 3 seconds. She says, like, they're crazy. And they look cool, like a Valdor mixed with a Burrell.
Yeah, it's called a Breldor.
Oh, nailed it.
Thank you. I do love a spaceship.
So Beverly's like, well, let's pull back. Shax's just like, what? But Dr. Crusher, the Cardassians want to fight. We can fight them. They want to fight. I want to fight. Let's fight.
I want to fight. They want to fight. This is consensual.
It's basically dancing. I'll lead. Like, no, those lines aren't in here, but you get the point.
It's true.
So she's
Ad
like,
libbing
didn't
a
you
bit.
hear? Then Lily, the Lily Sato, the Andorian, who we've come to find is the granddaughter, great grand, some sort of granddaughter-ish of Hoshi Sato.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. They mixed with the Andorian line at some point, those Satos.
Pretty cool.
Very interesting. Yeah. Though looks primarily Andorian, you don't really see too much of the human in her. So, so she's like, but Shax, didn't you hear Talir say overwhelming force was coming our way? He's like, haha, Shax is like, haha, all the more reason to bring the fight to them. That doesn't even make sense.
He's very
Shax
true
is so
to
hilariously
his Lower Decks
mad.
prediction. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, somehow they write him almost, I would say even exactly like he acts in Lower Decks, but it still fits in this more serious world. He's just a bit crazy. Clearly undiagnosed PTSD. Well, not undiagnosed. He probably is supposed to go to the counselor and doesn't. But he's got some PTSD from the occupation, and like lots going on.
It's kind of like the writing team asked, "What if Worf were Bajoran?" And then just
kind of, but he's way more of a loose unit than Worf is.
Oh yeah,
he's like season 1 Worf, but even like
yeah. He just runs at everything
and loves it. Like Worf's doing it for honor. Shax is doing it for joy. He just loves it. Like, look at this that we're gonna be reviewing. I'll get it later. But anyway, there's a spin-off of the Day of Blood that's just called Shax's Best Day. The Day of Blood is Shax's best day. So we'll be reviewing that one on the next edition of Trekle. So come back for that. Yeah, I'll grab the cover here before we wrap up. So they're fighting. There's a big phaser fight now. They're phaser fight. Shax's got his wish. They're fighting it out. Well, Beverly's trying to retreat, and so is Talir, but Shax ain't moving backwards. He's not going anywhere.
I mean, he'll cover them, really. I think is probably the most he'll agree to there.
Yeah, he's covering them pretty well, too. So they're trying to get talk to Data, but they're having a bit of communication issues. And this Lieutenant Dashini, who I really like, the one who's wearing like the Native American kind of head.
Yeah.
And stuff. She's really cool. They do a lot with her here in this next issue. And Tom's like, crap, we sent them into a trap. All hands red alert, prepare for tactical assault. So they're sending down reinforcements to help out Shax and Beverly and Talir. I think Dashini ends up leading that away team. So they're sending the cavalry down. Captain, So damn orb energy plane. Yeah, so she's talking to Scotty as well. Scotty's just like, Captain, I love the cavalry, but we cannot safely move the crew through the transporter pad. Each time we pop the cork, we lose more integrity to the field. So that's when she's like, so why don't we just overload the buffer, burn it out, and send us all down at once? Crazy idea. And
yeah, no kidding.
Data's just like, are you certain, Lieutenant? A mass site-to-site transportation of that magnitude would be. She's like, dangerous? Let me take the lead, Captain. That's the job. He's like, I was going to say extremely courageous. Data's such a good guy.
Yeah.
Like Cisco's basically falling in love with him too. Like Data's just a great guy. Look at that just a happy face there.
Every time.
He's proud of his officer. Like Data's great.
Oh, yeah.
So they beam down, and Beverly's like, Lieutenant Dashini, and like 3 security officers. Those strange, I don't know what those suits are, but the security officers are wearing like kind of this white, kind of almost like Star Trek the motion picture style uniforms. Like,
yeah, I know. That's not necessarily a choice I love in that moment, but
I don't know if that's some sort of like energy dampening
maybe it's like
armor
tactical
or
armor or something.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we certainly saw, you're exactly right, like the security people in that wore similar stuff.
I didn't notice that, but they do have different colored comm badges, these people in the white. Like this woman here has a blue one, so maybe she's a
Oh
medical officer.
yeah,
So that's
interesting. So it
interesting.
is some kind of special uniform then.
Yeah, it is. That's fine then.
Yeah.
It's actually good that they stopped sending Starfleet officers down to firefights in like a jumpsuit.
Just like nylon pants. Yeah, exactly.
Go get him.
Well,
Nothing
there
can
is a
beat
point
your
if it's
nylon
like
pants.
they're shooting disruptors at you. Yeah, Kevlar's not really going to make much difference.
I suppose. Just
Yeah.
weigh it down.
Yeah.
So then Jax is just smiling. God, he's happy. He's just, come on, you Cardassian bastards. You want battle? You don't know the meaning of the word. The prophets say hello. He's like smashing their heads together and everything. He's just having the best time.
He doesn't need
This
any
is
of
his
that,
best day.
Yeah, he doesn't need any of that sacrament. He's high on life.
Oh my God, Shaq's on that sacrament. There's a chance we might see that in this story. Maybe that's what his best day is.
His best day.
I haven't read it yet. I bet it is. Oh my God, I can't wait to read that. I can't wait to read that.
I hope I haven't ruined the issue by proposing a better issue.
Oh. You might have.
I
hope not. I don't know.
Surely the zeitgeist will take care of this problem.
I think so, and I have faith in this writing team because this story is just like every issue just gets better and sucks me in more. Like, oh, it's right up in the head canon now. I kind of wish this just went to screen and just, but I'm just loving it. So Lily's like, they're singing the Klingon war song again, and they're just like, they're singing it in Klingon, and the last line is Mayo. And Shaq's just like, I got your mayo right here. And he just like throws one of them into like the bunch of them. He's like throwing them around and everything. He's just lost it. Less hunching, more punching, Dashini says. It's pretty funny. Anyone think these fanatics are a little more frothy than we've seen them? They like fighting Jemadars. I like the way he was frothy. That's what Shax calls them. She's like, they're on drugs, Mr. Shax. They're completely addled by a combination of psychedelics and amphetamines. He's like, oh, damn, they were almost earning my respect.
Wow.
Because they were acting like him. It's like, these Guardies aren't so bad.
What?
They're crazy and want to fight.
Psychotropics and amphetamines for that? Come on. Or psychedelics, sorry.
So then Talir, using his mental powers, again, don't seem to be acting quite like Vulcan mental powers.
Yeah, not regular Vulcan powers.
No, like God,
no.
That's another mystery. There's so much mystery in this story.
Yeah, I'd like to learn more.
Annoyingly so, where you're just waiting for them to unravel the mysteries. It's all well paced. So he's like, if we go through that door, that's what we're looking for. Oh, that's right. They're after this team is after the orb of destruction.
Yeah.
That's what the rest of Cisco's team are after.
They're out in some sort of nebula.
Yeah. So she's like, down that hallway of Cardassian reserves, because the whole hallway he wants to go down is just full of Cardassian Red Path guys. She's like, Beverly's like, Dashini, hold the enemy here. Away team, you're with me, and they're going in. Oh, there they go. Down the.
She's an interesting commander that way.
Beverly
is.
Yeah, and she comments on it at some point where she's just like, command was just a hobby for me. Like I didn't really care. Like, and she said in that TNG episode, she's just like, I just kind of do it. It's nice every now and then, every month, sit in the command chair for a night shift.
Yeah.
But, when thrust into that position, she does very well. Like she did save the entire Enterprise that time by herself.
Absolutely, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't mess with Beverly, and like what we've seen in the new Picard. Oh wait.
Yeah.
Get on season 3, so I don't have to worry about spoilers. All right.
All right. I'll do it.
All right. Guilty. We're back in the court scene. Everyone thinks Cisco is guilty. And then Barada Damar who I'm starting to love, by the way. I'll get into that later why, but I love Barada.
He seems very, very. He's super confident, which I really enjoy.
He is. So then he's like, silence! Before judgment is passed, it is clear the accused wishes to be heard. The court of Barada Damar would hear what he has to say. That's where Cisco, he stands up and he's going to give his final speech to try to save his own life. But also try to reach, like, he kind of wants to help heal these wounds as well. Like, he does feel some amount of guilt. He's like 900 million, a virtually unfathomable number. Like, it is basically to think 900 million people were killed in like an hour, like, or whatever it was when that bombardment started after they knew they lost, the Cardassians betrayed them.
Yeah, just absolute madness, right?
Yeah, it's insane. He's like, but now I can put a face to each, all of your sons and daughters, 1 billion dead Cardassians, 2 generations. He's like, yes, it was war, and I was the enemy commander, but it was the Dominion, not the Federation, who shelled your cities, who took your history, who split your people apart. What was done to you was cruel beyond measure, and you deserve your pain and you deserve your fury. He's like, I know, and I am sorry for this truth, that punishing me will not be a balm to that pain. Vengeance is not justice, and it will never heal. But if my death is what it takes for you to begin that journey, if my death in some way brings even one of you closure for the tragedy that was wrought, he says, then I am here. And Cisco is always willing to take one for the team, man.
Oh yeah,
he's the best. He's the best commander.
Like it. He's like, things are real. You have to deal with things.
And then Barada Damar says, then the verdict is as it ever was, as it was meant to be. Guilty. And then we go to the personal log of Barada Damar. And this is interesting, where he's examining the phrase that his uncle, Damar, what is Damar's first name again? The original one?
Legate. No, I'm not
say
sure.
Legate. Do we get it? I'm sure we do, but I forget.
We got to somewhere. Anyway. I just don't remember what it is.
Yeah. He says, for your sons, for my sons, for all our sons, is how Damar ended his big speech back in the final episodes of Deep Space Nine. So this is Barada Damar examining that phrase, for all our sons. He's like, everyone says that on Cardassia. Like, fathers teach it to sons, and they teach it in school, and just like, that's just a thing Cardassians say. And he's just like, I have been raised in the shadow of those 4 words, came of age in the ruins they created, and yet still they give me a kind of nostalgic hope. They make me look to my elders in deference. They inspire me to behave as my fathers and grandfathers in the state they built would have me behave. But now in the dark, before a dawn of true justice, I wonder if perhaps it's time for Cardassia to finally stop placing the burden of sacrifice on her children and start learning how to be the change we seek, regardless of the judging gazes of our elders, so we might leave behind a better Cardassia. Which speaks to what Garrick said about Damar. He's just like, I don't believe he's crazy necessarily, but he's a reformer. He's just like, he wants to legitimately change Cardassia. And that does seem to be the case, because those are his personal logs we just read. I only read a little bit of it. It goes on. But, well, that was the end of it I read, but there's a preamble. Now we go back to the firefight. Look at Shaxx just having a great time. Maybe this is just his best day. Maybe it's just more of this scene in its own book. I'd even be fine with that. Just watch Shaxx beat up these Red Path Cardassians and stuff for 24 pages or whatever. So Shaxx, we need to clear down the corridor, clear the way down that corridor, because there's another orb here. He's like, then stay behind me and keep a keen eye, Commander. Our reinforcements won't hold these cultists for long. That's when Dashini's like, don't be so sure. And then Red Path guy comes at her, is just like, die, heretic scum. And she's just like, nope, You first, and takes his own batleth and drives it in his stomach. She's a badass. She catches this batleth mid-swing, like on the blade
That's
end.
pretty
She just catches
crazy.
it. Yeah.
How's
Like,
she
just
doing that?
I don't know. Dashini is a badass, though.
I missed that panel first because she's catching it on the blade.
Yeah. She catches it on the blade and drives it into his stomach.
And does not have her thumb immediately sliced off.
Nope.
So her grip strength alone.
And precision. Like,
right?
Yeah. Amazing.
That's inhuman.
I think she's cool. I like this Dashini.
Very cool.
And then they get there, and Beverly's like, Ensign Sato, you've got a head for locks. And she's like, it's really more of a hobby. Beverly's just like, that's what she says. That's what she says. Command was her hobby. Mm-hmm. She's like, looks like we're both deep in our hobbies today. Beverly's so good at it. And then Shaq's just like, incoming, and he's just like holding the door by himself while they work. He's just, killing more red path guys. He's having a good day. Access denied. Access denied. Keeps happening. Lily, the situation is increasingly dire, Talir says. And then, because they're trying to get past this door, and then Shax just turns around and he's like, do I need to break down that door? And then Lily turns to him. She's like, dude, I will break you down. Just give me a minute to do my job, okay? And he's just like, oh, look how his face changes. He's like, oh, geez. Okay, she's cool. She's serious.
Just yelling at you. Come on.
Jeez. You don't need to get personal. He's a sensitive guy, too. Like we see in Lower Decks. He'll cry and he'll sing dirges and whatnot. God, I love Shax. I can't stress that enough. But then, access granted. She gets them in. And they look and they see, a floating orb box. And Shax is just like, damn, it's more beautiful than I could have imagined. And there is a red path guy in there. It's a Romulan this time. And the Romulan says to Shax, raise your weapon, for to die unarmed is to embrace Greythor. And then Shax is just like, a Romulan with a sword? I've never fought one of you before. Again, excitement on his face, which turns to like pure joy. Oh, he's just having the greatest.
Throws away the phaser rifle. I love it.
Like they never let me kill this many people on the Cerritos. Or eject the warp core. He's always trying to eject the warp core. That's the funny thing. He's so much like Warp. Warp always wants to fire phasers. Shax always wants to eject the warp core.
That's true.
Engineers must hate Shax. Like ejecting the warp core is a real big problem for the engineers. They don't enjoy that at all. So Shax is fighting this guy. And he's just like, is that all you've got? I heard Romulans were strong, which shows you Shax, just because he's jacked all hell, is as strong as a Romulan. Because look at him. Look at those muscles compared to the Romulan. Like Shax is just jacked, man. And he's huge. Like they always show him dwarfing over all these other people too. Like, he's
a very large man too. I think he takes advantage of that size.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
So then Lily disengages the stasis field around the orb. And these guys. The Romulan says to Shax, you were unwise to engage a paladin of Kahless without your weapon. Shax is like, oh, is that what I did? Or did I just distract you long enough to overload my phaser rifle? Which is now behind the Romulan. And then it blows up, and like Beverly hears him say that. Shax didn't clear this plan with the rest of the team in that room. So Beverly's just like, Talia, Lily, get out of here. Shax is going to kill us all. Like, and then he almost does. Like, it blows up. But it knocks the orb box down, which opens in front of Talir, who is also on the ground. So now Talir is having an orb experience with the Orb of Destruction. Maybe not the nicest orb experience.
Yeah, no kidding, eh?
Given its name, So now we go back to the bridge where we got Tom Paris and Data, another cool team. So it's like you said, it seems like it could have seemed like they just threw all these popular characters together, but I feel like they chose them very, very carefully. so that it did all make sense, but also so the personalities were fun together.
Mm-hmm. I think it testifies
they
to
could
a
have thrown
very good amount of like plotting out beforehand. They've really
yeah.
like they knew where they were going from the start, which is great.
Mm-hmm. I would like to get these writers on the show and talk to them about this.
Oh yeah,
I love this story. We might have to do that. I have to work on that.
oh, yeah.
All right. So Data feels bad because he can't help the away team. The orb box now, we haven't figured that out yet. I think they say it in the next issue, but the orb box is disrupting transport. They can't transport the away team.
Mm-hmm.
And Data's just like, he's talking about patience. He says, like, I don't like standing around. I find patience much simpler without the added pressure of anxiety, Data says.
I mean,
Tom says,
he's not wrong.
yeah,
He's not wrong.
not wrong at all. So it sounds nice, Tom says. Try Christmas morning with my dad sometime. Waiting for him to get through that first cup of coffee is like a graduate course in patience. And then Data's just like, I simply do not enjoy the experience of being useless. Because that's maybe never happened to Data before, like where he's just kind of stuck and can't do
Certainly
anything.
not
He always
often,
has an
eh?
idea. Yeah. So, we've got tachyon signals pinging. A dozen ships decloaking, Tom says. And Dave's like, how? This nebula is nearly impossible to navigate. That's why they had to use the sails that they put solar sails on the Theseus to just kind of glide in. And Tom's just like, oh, they didn't chase us here. They were waiting for us. And we see the Theseus with the beautiful sails.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
a
all
bunch
the
of
ships
Galar
waiting for
and
them.
the Deredex and other ships all waiting for them.
We see a Deredex. We see a bird of prey. A Galar class. What else we got here? What is that one? Oh, that's another Cardassian ship. A couple bird of preys. There's this thing here, which almost just looks like this. I guess that's the station.
Yeah, that's going to be your
that's
whatever.
the station.
Nor.
Yeah,
not Mbok or Terok, but something.
A different Nor. Yep.
Yeah.
So then we go back to the court scene, and there he is. Just goes strung up at the firing line.
Mm-hmm.
Funny thing is, they don't show it here, but I'm pretty sure in the next issue we find that Garrick strung up next to him. They took them both.
Somebody's like, we'll just throw in Garrick for good measure. Nobody likes Garrick.
And then Barada Damar speaks. My fellow Cardassians, too long have we lived in the ashes of our tragedy. Today we begin something new. Today we leave behind the enemies of our past. Today we stop being controlled by our fear and begin a brand new path set down by ourselves alone. For your son, for all our sons. Fire. End of issue.
End of issue.
All right. Now let's skip back to the Defiant, shall we?
All right.
All right.
Oh! All right. We're pushing in close to an hour. We'll put some steam on and get through these last two issues here.
Yeah, we'll fire this up.
All right.
These ones I remember a lot better because I just read them.
Yeah, no, honestly, I do not mind having myself reminded of the story. I read those issues several weeks ago. Completely lost hold of how the whole nebula thing worked.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we're back on the Defiant with Commander.
No, we're back with Lore.
Oh, right.
And Spock just got blown up by that.
Place.
Yeah, Korath's place. So then they're wondering how that happened since they scanned for everything, and they're like, well, it must have been a biological, biochemical, biomechanical, they say, device, so that it could be inert and then fire itself up based on their energy coming into the room. So their energies, their like life energies, powered up this device and blew up, which is they come to realize is exactly how the Kuvo K-less works. So it's just like a smaller version of that,
massively scaled up.
Yeah. So it definitely shows that they were right, that Korath must have had something to do with the invention of this device.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just a species of builders. No, they haven't found Korath. But Spock's like, it's so complex that it suggests that this device is in fact sentient, this power source. And Lor's like, a sentient power source? That's entirely theoretical. He's like, well, almost. I suggest you review our Enterprise mission logs concerning the V'ger entity. So,
right.
And
point. We're back to the motion picture again.
Yep. So now we're back to the Worf's getting his surgery again. They're trying to keep him alive as best they can. What's wrong, Worf? Sayla says, what's wrong, Worf? Worried your son has become a drug addict on top of a murderer. That is none of your concern, Sayla. B'Elanna's just like, strange, Sayla. You remind me of Tom. You can't help but get a kick out of seeing Klingons angry.
But they made a very good point here, right? This whatever this sacrament of Kahless is, it's addictive.
Yep. And we get into that. Yep. So they basically are trying to convince the Orion doctor to go analyze the sacrament and figure out more about it. She's just like, I'm not. I don't do causes. I'm just kind of here, but I'm not like part of your cause or your team. Like. And then they just start to blackmail her. Isn't the
ruthlessly?
Like, isn't the penalty?
Really?
Yeah, ruthlessly. They all do too. They all join in on it. Like, B'Elanna's just like, isn't the penalty for being caught as a farmer in Federation space life imprisonment? Sayla's like, well, we Romulans actually torture all captured farmers when investigating the full extent of their distribution networks. She's like, oh, Blackveil, very honorable. She's in Worf's like, true honor would be returning you to your Orion brethren and confessing to your crimes. I could easily facilitate your surrender.
Good old Worf.
B'Elanna's like, although the Orion Pirate Code stipulates that all thieves and deserters should be beamed out into space, isn't that right? Let's just beam her out into space. She's like, all right. I'll go analyze your stupid friggin' like.
Yeah. It's like, I've been sufficiently threatened, thank you.
So then Spock manages to get in contact with Worf because he's back on the ship. They've gotten back to the ship. And Worf's just like, do you have Korath? He's just like, no, but we do have a mild consolatory merit. Something of mild consolatory merit. And then B'Elanna and Worf and Sayla leave. And Sayla's just like, oh, I'm so looking forward to seeing my old Vulcan friend. The one she tried to assassinate.
Indeed.
Yeah. Spock's just like, Sayla, what are you still doing aboard my ship? Like, just he hates her so much. She's like, you want to face these Romulan Bloodwings? That's what she calls these cleave ships, right? They're called Romulan Bloodwings. And Worf's just like, it seems Kahless has united Klingons and Romulans in a blood oath bond. And Sayla's just like, well, then maybe we'll need to work together too and understand how they did that and how it might be undone. Romulans and Klingons working together? Disgusting.
I know. That's just perverted.
Yeah. So then we have another sidebar, and it's the medical officer's log, and it's just that X character. She even signs it X at the bottom. She's just like, because she's doing a medical officer's log too, which is funny. She's just like, is this thing on? Hello? Okay. Let me get something straight. I am not a medical officer. I'm just stuck here. And I guess I need to, and this is where she says, it's interesting. So she's analyzing it, and she can really only fully identify two active ingredients, which is Klingon adrenaline, which she says it's like basically potent epinephrine, and uridium bicantazine, which is a primary component of the isogenic enzyme found in Ketracel white. But it's not the addictive part, which is what's strange. It's actually the nutritional part of the Ketracel white, because it completely sustains the Jem'Hadar. So this uridium bicantazine, they were designed, the Jem'Hadar, to be able to survive entirely off of it, but for other species, it's just like a really, really potent megavitamin.
Right.
So she can't understand. So she starts calling the sacraments Ketracel Red. Very cool.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't want to call it like the sacred sacrament anymore. She's like, I'm sick of calling it that. I'm going to call it Ketracel Red.
Yeah.
But so what she realizes, because she can't isolate any addictive compound, is that it's just heightening the negative emotions in the followers of Kalis. Like, what did she say?
So it allows them to be manipulated.
Like fear, anger, lust, although she wouldn't classify that last one as a negative, she said. But they just feel a ton of it. And what's interesting is they may be, in fact, be psychological. It's a psychological addiction, because Klingons like enjoy those emotions. Like they have a predilection toward pain, suffering, agony, conflict, spite, stoicism during grief, you name it, she says. So maybe that is what the Klingons, at least, and seemingly the Romulans and other ones as well, are addicted to. And that's what, because Worf, when he comes out of it, he's like, I want more. Like, I'm already addicted to this stuff. But what she posits is no, but Klingons are, she thinks that Klingons always appear to be angry. But what they actually are is afraid, she posits. That Klingons just live in this state of like very like raw fear. And these heightened fear emotions and anger emotions are what they're becoming addicted to, because they're comfortable in that space anyway. But now it's just a heightened sense of it. So it's like all the things that Klingons feel all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and if that's where they derive their sort of thirst to be powerful and to be strong, if that's what drives them to that in a certain sense on a death world, growing up on a death world, you can see how that would just be completely intoxicating. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's really interesting.
It is like, oh, there's so much good stuff here. So then Worf and Salo walk into the briefing room where Spock and Lore are waiting for them. And Worf says to Spock, you're injured. And he's just like, and you are in the company of Commander Sela. Which is like way worse than me being injured. So like, what's
it's like, let's get it straight, pal.
Yeah, let's get it straight. And Lore's just like, Sela, Data's girlfriend's daughter? Wow, it's weird to say. I almost feel like we're family. Girlfriend's daughter. And Sela's just like, oh, you must be Data's fun-loving brother. And then Spock says something funny. He says, like, Captain, if I might inquire, how many villains do we plan to recruit on this mission?
I mean, he does put the question right out there. It's like maybe the most meta moment of the whole story so far.
It's true. And Salo's like, villain? He's like, yes, you once sought to conquer my home planet and have me assassinated. And then Worf's just like, well, look, when it comes to villains, perhaps you get one and I get one. Spock's just like, as I recall, recruiting Lore was a mutual decision on our part.
It's like, I still get a villain then.
Then Worf flips out. Yeah, exactly. I still get one. Who do I get? I'm going to go get Khan. Like,
oh, now that's a way to stop these guys. Just throw Khan at them.
To flex. Like, what are they going to do?
Just Ricardo.
So then Worf's like, damn it, I came here to be briefed. But here we get a little sketch schematic of that Cleve ship there. See, so it sort of has like the Burrell head there with the mostly looks like a bird of prey, but I would say more of like a Valdor wings. And this is where she explains them, the stuff I explained earlier. See, we're gonna go through these issues quicker because I already talked about it all.
Yeah. But yeah, they can fire while cloaked, much like the other thing could. The
fire while cloaked and make like mincemeat of your shields in 3 seconds. Like, just deadly. Like, you almost don't need the Kuvo Kalis. And then Lore's just, or like, who does it say?
Well, the only reason they do is because at this point about expense, right? How the heck are the Romulans going to build a whole fleet full of those things?
Well, yeah, then B'Elanna's just like, well, if they're so great, why don't you just make the whole fleet? No, Lore says it actually. Why don't you just replace all the warbirds with them? And Sealer's just like, well, if you can figure out how to pay for that following a crippling war, I'm sure the Romulans would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, right. Like all those warbirds that already exist and we're already using, let's just toss them.
Yeah. So then they're talking about the transponder codes, and Worf's just like, Sayla, give me your transponder codes and get off my ship. She's just like, nah, they're staying right here. She wants to come along for this mission because, well, for some, I'm sure, Sayla reasons, but she also seems to want to stop the destruction of the Romulan Empire.
Yeah, and I mean, I think she's got her own career in mind as well. You know,
Yeah.
if she can pull this one off and not fail, maybe
Yeah.
she can go back on the rise again.
Get a warbird back, because right now she just has a shuttle. Like, she doesn't even have a ship anymore. She has a shuttle. Like,
yeah,
serious
she's doing like
demotion.
tariff stops and stuff.
Yeah. So Laura's like, well, welcome aboard, I suppose. She says something funny. She's like, but ridding the galaxy of zealous Klingon pestilence, this could revitalize my career. Besides, I know a thing or two about violent coups, and Spock's just like, namely, how to bungle them. He is getting on. This is the most like antagonistic we've ever seen Spock. But I love it. He's
Spock
doing it to
is
Lord.
really
He's
having
doing
a
it to
time
her.
here.
He really is.
Yeah.
That little
He's
maybe
getting
Worf's
pretty catty
wearing off
here.
on him
It's
a bit.
pretty great, honestly.
Yeah.
You forget how snarky a Vulcan can be until you're really
Right.
running to Spock again.
So then Worf just goes off on his own to like kind of get a breather, but Spock follows him into the room. And Worf's just like, apologies, and Spock's like, they're not necessary. You got an adrenaline mixture to keep your ambulatory coupled with the crucible stress of the situation. And he's like, this is where he says, Mr. Spock, am I failing in this? Like this, he's so much self-doubt with Worf in this story.
Yeah.
But it's also because he has so much not self-doubt, more like regret on what a shitty father he was. Like,
yeah.
It's funny, that's what he gets blasted about by fans all the time. Worf's such a bad father, but he knows it in this story, and he's very like, it's a major part of the story.
I think he's had that guilt Alexander's whole life, and has been unable to get past or through it or do much use with it. You know?
Yeah, he says, in a way, Alexander has always been lost, and I have never done enough to properly guide him. Perhaps my real problem began long before I became captain of a stolen ship. And this is where Spock says, the greatest captain I ever had the privilege of serving under, violated 234 Starfleet regulations during his tenure. Disobeyed direct orders 19 times. The prime directive several more than that. and remarkably, was only court-martialed twice. Spock's and Worf's like, well, I'm certainly not him. He's like, but you do bear a similar conviction. And then he asks an interesting question of Worf. He's just like, is Benjamin Sisko your friend? And Worf thinks about it for a minute, and he goes, yes. He's just like, well, then if you already trust the individuals on board, from Lore to Commander Sayla, why would you not also trust your friend? Because, Spock and Worf and Sisko have been at odds. So they haven't been talking since they split. So then it's like, whatever, good point. Good counsel, that Spock.
Yeah.
So then we get back to the medical bay, and Ro walks in because she wants some sacrament, because of course she does. It's Ro. But she has some interesting reasons where she's just like, she's like super full of disillusionment with this whole thing. And she's like, if you just give me some of that sweet sauce, maybe I can like focus on the mission and like have more faith in our plan. And she's just, and X is like, you think some hypo is going to give you faith? Like, it's not going to work. And they have a little chat. We never actually see if she gets the sacrament, but I don't think she does. Because then they're approaching the Corvat colony, and Worf's just like, Ro, report to the bridge this instant. So this is where it ties into the Free Comic Book Day issue where they like raised that entire planet there, and that's where they are now. And they're like, well, it's destroyed, so that sucks.
The Corvath colony?
The Corvat colony, yep.
Yeah.
debris field is so dense they can't transport down. But they need to get this piece of equipment. What do they call it? I just call it the module, I guess, because it might have Kaelus's whereabouts in it. Because it's the module from the Santa Cruz. So there's a destroyed.
Yeah.
The Santa Cruz was the ship from that Free Conflict Day issue, which was also destroyed, but its transponder is still out there. So they think maybe it will have some information to tell them where Kaelus is. And Laura's like, well, I can do it. And as Data would do. He's like, I can't be harmed, really. And he puts on a spacesuit, and Sayla follows him out. And she's like, do you even need that suit? He says, like, no. I drifted in space for 2 years. But I'd rather not damage any thermal circuits this time. And then Sayla's is like,
cold.
Sayla's talking about the power of this weapon and stuff. And she's like, having been made in some science lab, no offense, of course. She's, what is it? Anyways, forget I said that. Anyway, she's like, a real leader could unite the galaxy with that kind of power, don't you think? And Laura's like, maybe, but it won't be you. And then there he goes out there doing his fancy Data heroism. And that's when Worf's just like, look at him out there. And Spock's just like, certainly a bold and noble effort, I thought, unbecoming of him. And Worf's just like, yeah, but when he performs heroism, all I see is Data. Like, you could almost see Worf over time warming up to Laura.
And you can see Laura's continual problem, right? Because he never gets out of being Lore. And anything good really is Data. It's fascinating.
I'm just waiting
and that resentment in him is so deep. Like that.
You think that Laura shoe's gonna drop? It hasn't yet. He's acting very nice and cooperative. But like, it's Lore, right? The shoe's gonna drop at some point.
Well, he may well meet Data at some point in this. Again. So.
Right. There's gonna be so many good things. This is such a good story.
There are so many potential disasters in this. It's great.
So then they do find footage from the bridge on the attack of the Santa Cruz, and it's Alexander committing some murder.
Yep.
But then Worf's just like, no, as I said, all his life, Alexander has been lost. But here I see in him absolute focus, total conviction. I have completely failed him. And then this is kind of twisted. Like, they kill the captain of the Santa Cruz, make a handprint with his hand in his blood, and then write some stuff below it in the captain's blood, which says, no victory without combat.
Yeah.
And then we see Kaelus.
He's making a statement.
He is. Hear me, he says. And he's just like, hear me, Martok, son of Urtog. Hear me, Worf, son of Moog. Hear me, United Federation of Planets, Romulus Cardassia. Hear me in every quadrant. It's like, it is time now to return to Konos and breathe life into our empire. So he's turning back. He's just like, know what? We got what we need. Now we can go take our planet and then branch out.
Indeed.
So we got to have Martok now. He's going after him. He's going after him. Boy. Oh, boy. The Day of Blood's going to be so good. He's like, to make the galaxy our empire. You once referred to me as a fungus from a glass tube. Now witness what I am about to become. Boom, which is what you said exactly. He can't get the fact that he's a clone out of his head. It's there all the time.
And he always puts it on you, but it's actually him.
Yeah, he's you like, called me a test tube. It's just like, no, maybe you think you're a test tube, buddy. Yeah, exactly. God, this story's well written. So yeah, Worf goes to finally send the message to Benjamin, which he does leave. Yeah. He doesn't hear back from him. It's just a one-way message, not just to communicate, as it always is in space, because it has to cross great distances. Well, most often. And he tells them that he wants him to meet him at Konos, because that's where the Kuvo Kaeles is going to be, which he didn't want to tell Sisko at first. Like, he's like, if I tell Sisko where the Kuvo Kaeles is, he's going to go and destroy it with Alexander on board. And he doesn't want that. He wants to save his son and stop the Kuvo Kaeles. So Worf's objectives are so much more complicated than Sisko's are.
Yeah, but it looks like he's tending now toward, if this is Alexander's end, hopefully he meets it well, you know?
Yeah. He seems to be getting to that point with that whole he's lost and I've completely failed him.
Yeah, exactly.
Trek
Hello,
reviewer
the
says
Trek
hi.
reviewer.
And Sam says hi.
Hi, Sam.
What is the Day of Blood? The thing we're counting down to, Sam. Are you paying attention?
We're as interested as you to find out.
Yeah, it's true. It's Shax's best day. We know that.
Yeah.
So then we have we're back to final one we're going to cover here tonight, and it's Talir's orb experience. Yep, in his orb experience, and they are like, "You are not the orb. You are not the Sisko." It's like, "I am Talir, a Vulcan of Starfleet." They go, "You are not." Which we know he's not a Vulcan, man. I want to know what this guy is. That's the one thing that's starting to drive me crazy. Not in a bad way, but I just really want to know.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, I am uninterested in playing a game of masks. We are each who we are. I am crewman to your Sisko, an emissary in my own right. You are arms manufacturers. That's what he tells the prophets.
Emissary in my own right.
Yeah.
That is fascinating.
Maybe that's a clue. Interesting.
Whose emissary is he?
Like Sisko's because he's on his crew? He must be talking deeper than that.
Or emissary because he's talking to the prophets? Or is he the emissary of some other power?
Yeah. I feel like it's that. But then
that's
like
what
the orb of destruction.
Feel of.
This is an interesting orb experience. They go, the orb of destruction makes many from one.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, from your vantage point beyond history, the full cycle of each moment is seen. You cannot plead ignorance for the destruction your tools have wrought. And they go, in your hands you hold our answer. The orb of creation makes one of many. Together they make all of all. He's like, you are giving weapons to children. They are not ready for this power. And they go, little one, they are not given to children. They are given to him. And Talir is given a glimpse of Sisko and Garrick dying up next to him. He has a bit of a scream. He doesn't want to get shot. He hates firefights. He likes to shoot people in the back.
Yep. Good old knife is what works for Garrick as well.
And Talir's just like, Captain, oh no. And so he thinks he's seeing the captain's death here.
Mm-hmm.
But then, the Jem'Hadar and Barada's Damar's other loyal soldiers, I guess, in fact, just shoot everyone in the audience of the court. Kill them all.
Yep. They annihilate the gallery.
Yep, they annihilate the gallery, and one of them yells, it was a trick. And Barada Damar just goes, no, it is justice. So now we see Damar's big plan here. And that's when they let Sisko and Garrick go, and Sisko's just like, Damar, it was never about me, was it? He's like, this trial was just a trap to assemble your political enemies in one place to be slaughtered. And Garrick's just like, ooh, very good, Mr. Damar.
I know, he's like
sincere respect.
Awesome.
Like,
I told you he was a reformer.
That was like in the Pale Moon Light level. Like,
yes.
Very good. So he's just like, he set out an invitation to all Cardassians, knowing only those with like the most hatred and like revenge and toxic dreams and simmering bile and rot, as he calls it, would show up. And the Jem'Hadar's just like, rot must be removed. That's when Barada says, my uncle...
Simple phrases.
Yep, that's what Barada says. My uncle was a fool, a puppet tyrant without ruling without power. True. And then he looks at Sisko and he's like, we will never be your utopian federation, nor would we ever want to be. But he's like, I'm building a new Cardassia where we're not going to let the past and like the old ways of doing things destroy our future any longer.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, it's like almost on Earth. If we could get all the people who like killing each other because they disagree on which fairy tales are real, that want to kill each other over that, If we could just make all those
Yeah.
people go away,
Take your
the
time,
Earth would be a
Cal.
lot friggin' better. It'd be a lot friggin' better. But he actually does that in a murderous way. I don't think we should murder those people necessarily, but he does.
Well, he does it in a very Cardassian way, right?
Well, he says that too. He says,
What is it? Garrick says
he's
it's like it's nice to see that Cardassian blood still runs cold.
yeah.
Which is a wonderful way to put it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're not humans, they're not the Federation, they don't want that. They don't have to, but they can still be valuable members of a galactic community nonetheless, right?
Yeah.
Like Klingons don't have to be the same as humans either, but they don't have to be the Red Path.
No.
I feel like that's like that's the symmetry we're seeing here.
Mm-hmm. So then Talir pops out of it and just checks. It's like, you spoke to the prophets? And he's like, yeah. And I fear they have forsaken us all. Guns of Cardassia still ring in my ears, and if I'm not mistaken, I just saw Captain Sisko die. Mm-hmm. And Beverly's like, we'll deal with that later. And he's like, so Shax is like, this is our last stand? I always hoped it would end like this. Oh my. So they have the orb. They want to get out of there, but Data's like, I can't beam you up because of the orb. Mm-hmm. Like, I can beam you up, but not with the orb. So like, no, actually, I don't even think that he could beam them up. It's just like it's destructible. So then more Red Path guys are coming down the path, and all of a sudden the Red Path guys get shot from behind.
Mm-hmm.
And who is it? It's Sisko and Zero, the Jem'Hadar, and Barada Damar.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, Captain, you're alive. And then the Jem'Hadar says, say the words, Captain, for they've never been truer. Mm-hmm. And that's when Sisko says, victory is life. And they all start to, that was great.
Oh, man.
And then
I like
we have
these
an
phrases
archival
that they have as like a motif here. You know, like the piece from Jake Sisko really early on, and then the bit about for all our sons, and now here with victory is life. They have these sort of phrases that these species have held on to and structured themselves by, you know. But they're all coming into these different. Even the warriors
built into the story so well.
Yeah, they're all coming into different meanings. I love it.
Yeah, and then there's just an archival recording from First Speaker Damar, and it's like a conversation between him and the Jem'Hadar and Sisko. It's nothing too important.
Sort of explains why he says victory is life. It gives a little more context.
Exactly. It's more.
It's a lovely piece of writing, but yeah.
It is.
Mike Fian's art.
And the funniest thing is Barada's just like, yeah, your ship's actually not far out there because we just let it skulk around. He says, I don't really think a Federation ship skulking around in our territory is a threat because you guys love your Romulan cloaking devices. If you wanted to sneak around and do bad things, you'd be using one of those Romulan cloaking devices you love so much. He's like, we have one Romulan cloaking device. Like, I love Barada Damar. He's so funny.
Barada's no pushover, man.
And I don't approve of his methods, but I approve of what he's trying to do to Cardassia. Because, and they go on to explain later in this issue, I think. Well, I guess we'll get there in a minute. Really? Yeah, okay. I'll get there in a minute. So then Sisko sees the Vorta sneaking away. He's like, no. I'm not going to let some Vorta go do something sneaky. That's exactly what they do. So he follows the Vorta. Oh, and he has a nice word with Data there. He's just like, Sisko to Data, I'm going calm, silent. This operation is yours. I assume you've got it under control. He's like, yes, Captain. I calculated an approximate 93% chance of our imminent success. It's like, well, Data, let's try to get it to 100. He's like, I'll do my best, sir. He's like, I'm starting to believe you're incapable of anything less. Just go out. He loves Data.
That is true.
And he didn't seem to be too fond of Data when this story started.
No, he was very suspicious of him.
Because he didn't choose Data. Data was the one who was set on his crew to keep him in line. Yeah,
he was Picard's plant, right?
Yeah. So then he sees that the Vorta is actually found a bit of a tube, bit of a containment tube, which has a changeling in it. The last changeling in the Alpha Quadrant, he says, and one that they've kept that virus from. So it's just a healthy changeling. And then the Jem'Hadar ends up coming in behind Cisco, putting his hand on his shoulder. So Cisco's like, "Uh-oh, I'm screwed now." And there's the changeling. And then the Vorta starts to talk about how the changelings built the Jem'Hadar and the Vorta, and what for, and what kind of lives that gave them. And he's like, God's demanding fealty and forgiveness while keeping secrets and trading lives, demanding we remind ourselves always that we were unworthy of them when it was them who were not worthy of us. And the changeling's like, wait, what? And then boom, the Vorta kills the changeling. Pachum.
Vaporizes him.
Like, yep. And he says, you taught us that, Captain Cisco, in your own way. Perhaps someday you'll learn it yourself. Like maybe
it's like another one of these lessons that Cisco's like, oh, why do people keep taking this from my words? Murder.
Yeah,
that's what we
he was pondering that, his relationship with the prophets earlier in the story. Like, well, you know what? Maybe they aren't worthy of me. Like, they just boss me around and never give me explanation and keep me from my family. And
absolutely.
So he's really getting disillusioned with the prophets. And then here we have it. Yeah, from the desk of Barada Damar, first speaker of the Cardassian Reclamation. To all sovereign governments of the Alpha and Beta Quadrants for immediate release. And this is where he's talking about the Cardassian state. He's like, we Cardassians, like in ancient times, had like God type myths and whatever. But
so beautifully mentioned in A Stitch in Time.
Yeah. But he says, like, way longer ago in their past than most of these races of the Alpha and Beta Quadrants, they got rid of their gods. I mean, maybe not before the Klingons killed their gods, but, early. And he's like, but then they just made a god of something else, and they called it the Union. So this is what explains that great patriotism to the state. So he doesn't want to just get rid of like the traditionalist fanatics. He wants to get rid of the patriots as well, the people who are over patriotic to the Cardassian state, because he's just like, that's just been like sinking us time and time again. This like we don't change the state because we worship the state. So it's just the same thing generation after generation. He's like, that has to end. It's like, let's not do that no more. Let's try something different. He's like, it was our hubris who provoked the Federation, our cowardice that allied with the Dominion, our need for revenge that pursued the Klingons. He's just like, it's all been our fault. Like, he doesn't blame others for the
we've made choices in here to take ourselves to these places. Yeah,
like Cisco was saying to Dukat earlier. He's like, you chose to lie in a bed with devils.
It's interesting, right? The if we were to put Damar's points in real world terms, I'd point to the work of the theologian Paul Tillich, who he wrote a whole lot of structural theology and that kind of systematic theology and a bunch of things like that. But he also was a very interesting phenomenological writer, and he described this thing that he called sort of people, each of us has a sort of ground of ultimate value, whether that be some sort of God figure, the state, the party, if that's what you are, maybe it's the revolution, maybe it's the corporate structure that you're identified with, right? Maybe it's just straight up hedonism, or
maybe it's a football team,
right? Exactly. Maybe it's your
maybe
football
it's guns. Maybe it's guns,
right? And this is what he says, right? Humans and sentient creatures, we'd have to sort of widen it out, have this capacity, and we invest things with value. And if we don't take time to examine the structures with which we imbue that value, then we can become the tools of that structure rather than that structure being, how we're actually exploring our life, the universe, and everything. And I think that's what Damar is pointing at here, and I love that point being made. Those kind of fatal misconceptions that we've carried with us will sink us time and time again until we sit with them for a while.
See, and that's the thing, and he wants to end all that. But the problem is with his plan is he just murdered an entire room full of people, creating all new generational trauma. Like he's trying to get rid of all this generational trauma and those types of things. But he just created a whole bunch more of it.
Way.
Yeah, like
more
you're still being too Cardassian. More change, more change, buddy. Like you didn't go quite far enough. You still got that ice in the veins. Like, yeah. So then it's just we end up with the Theseus is back at a star base. Is that Deep Space Nine? No, it's pretty. It's a Terok of some sort. I think it's Deep Space Nine. And they're looking at the ore box.
Yeah, he's reconnecting with family and doing all sorts of good stuff. They've got a few moments to take a breath here. It looks like at the end of this issue.
Yeah. And he's like, he sees temptation. He sees, his crew's. Ooh, what is that? Is that?
What'd you notice?
Oh, anyway, it almost just looked like the NX-01 uniform crew there. Looks
gosh, it almost did, didn't it? Yeah.
But then he gets the incoming message from Worf.
Yeah.
And Worf's just like, Captain, you got to listen to me. We got to rendezvous. We got to make this happen or die trying. I know we currently find ourselves at odds, but Kahless must be stopped no matter the cost. And of course, Cisco will almost certainly agree, and then they're warping away. That is the end of the countdown to the Day of Blood.
So now all we have is Day of Blood.
The best day.
Countdown concluded. All right.
Just one sec. I want to show you the cover of that Shaxx one.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Where are we at here? Shaxx's best day. Oh, look at all these like Day of Blood covers. Oh, there is. Oh, that's Data and Lore. Spoilers.
Nice.
Working side by side. Oh my God, where's Shaxx's best day? Okay, I don't know where I said it. What? I don't know. I lost it. Oh no, there it is. What? Okay.
And now an excellent view of a Locutor's beard.
Oh, really? My bad. It's a nice beard. All right. Well, I don't know where I said it. I'll find it so we can read it.
But we've already seen.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Indeed.
There will be another Trekle Trunk tomorrow, but don't worry, that ain't gonna be you. Me and Michael Chan and Jessica Chan gonna be reviewing the 4 issues of Star Trek Halloween.
Oh, great fun.
Yeah, good story. I have to just read the last issue. So, yep, that's going to be fun. Check that out tomorrow. And you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Contact us, locutors@trek@gmail.com. Find our audio-only version wherever you get your podcasts, and we are a member of the United Federation of Podcasts. Check it out. Go there for the rundown. I'm going to skip the rundown tonight.
They do just about everything.
Oh, and, patreon.com/livelongapodcast. You can get some sweet merch. Look at this merch. Look at that shirt. Gorgeous.
Hey, I want to buy that.
Look at that shirt. Look at that shirt. Look at this mug. There's you
I'm on
with your
mug.
happy phaser. You're on a mug.
My happy phaser.
I really want that mug. So,
yeah.
Go get yourself some sweet merch and support our varied Star Trek content at the same time.
Yeah, I gotta go spend.
And I guess that only leaves one thing remaining.
It's true. End transmission.